we are having a special guest for you, Skylar D'Alessandro, a fellow magician and magical practitioner, mystic, and many other things. So, Sky, I'm gonna call you Sky in this interview. How can you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, so I'm Sky. Demetrius helped me out many times throughout my journey. So it was pretty cool when he asked me to be on the podcast. Definitely a positive shout out there. Other than that, I guess we'll take the interview as we go, and just kind of see how things go. I'm a trans woman and a daughter of Lilith, and a devotee to the left-hand path. So I like all things, we'll say, magic related.
Yeah, so how your magical journey started?
My magical journey started when I was very, very young. I grew up, I was in and out of hospitals my whole childhood. I was a very, very sick kid, and I really turned to God to get better. When I was 17, I was told I wouldn't live past 25, and I'm 25, so that's cool. But I just had a lot of things wrong with my life and in my body and things of that nature. So my mom was, and it still is, a Wiccan priestess. My dad's a devout Catholic, so how the hell they mix, I don't even know. But growing up, I would do the Catholicism, go to church and stuff like that. But then I was also looking into other things. So I do yoga. I do. I used to read books by like Carlos Castaneda. I never really got into the really dark stuff. My best friend growing up was very into the Goetia and things of that nature. But because of the whole white light background I grew up with, for most of my childhood, I tended to avoid that. But I did get into a lot of, we'll say, light tantra. And then about 2 years ago, I was Lilith wrenched her way into my life and was like, "No, bitch, this is where you're gonna practice now. I'm the captain now." And I went through a whole journey and found out many things, and the gods have me on this particular path, this darker path, and I'm happy to be here. Honestly, it was very much jarring at first. It was honestly quite terrifying coming from the background I was coming from. But I'm tenacious and I'm stubborn, so I'm still here.
Okay, so can you tell us what are your first rituals? How you started practicing,
When I was 12, my best friend, or one of my closest friends, was practicing magic, and I didn't really believe in magic at that time. I mean, I did, but I didn't really think too much about it. The first ritual I would say I did was with him, and he was very much into demonology and goetic magic. And at this time, I thought it was more of a bonding experience. I wasn't thinking of it in terms of actual work, but I made a blood pact with the Infernal with him. And I was just like, like I said, I had a really shitty childhood, not much to live for.
Can you tell me which spirit that was?
It was Satan. But it was in my mind for the edge. And because I was on death's door for most of my childhood and I didn't really give a crap. Like when you have nothing to live for, like there's that quote from Fight Club, "Losing all hope is freedom." When you have nothing to live for and life is just total shit, you just don't care what you do anymore. Like it is a sense of freedom. And so I was just like, fuck it. Like I had gone to Palm Sunday at my church, and we had little palms and made out of like the palm trees there. And I was like, let's just like write a fucking contract being like, yeah, I'm gonna work for you, homie. And then burn it with the palms from Palm Sunday. And so we did it, and we put the ashes in a jar, and I kept the jar for almost a decade until it got lost when I moved. But those ashes were with me for a long time. And one of the first things that was channeled when I started going through all this stuff was pretty much that, like, oh, you made the right choice selling your soul. to us. So somebody was obviously listening, whether or not, you know, that's I would say how, to my knowledge, there's a good chance that's what got me onto this path in this life. Although I do know, I do suspect that I've been on the darker path in many, many lives. So that's just what I'll say. And that was somebody channeled that what I did was an unconscious sort of retaking of the vows of contracts I had already made previously. So in previous lives. And that
Yeah, so can you like tell me how that ritual with Satan, that pact with Satan looked like?
Yeah, it was something, I pretty much have gone into all the detail I can. It was just in my mind like an 11 or 12-year-old having fun, or just causing chaos and being rambunctious and annoying, and not caring because I was in a shit situation with a close friend, and the close friend went on to become one of the most powerful magicians I know, and has had experiences all his life. Mine really upped recently during the solar flares that were going on.
Okay, so can you tell us how during that ritual how you felt? Did you feel
At the
any energy?
time, I was
Yeah.
on a lot of medication, and my consciousness was not really there. So at that time, I definitely felt something. I felt like, I guess, like shivers in a way. So at that time, it was definitely like, I know from now from experience that something happened, but I didn't know what, and I didn't think too much about it at the time. So I think, perhaps a seed was planted then that sprouted during uh, the solar flares, or came more into fruition. I still have not worked directly with Satan on frequently. I have worked directly with Satan at this point, but I guess it's something I'm intentionally branching into at this point to sort of continue to get over the Christian indoctrination that I went through. But initially, when all this sort of came to light, I was very hesitant to get into a lot of what I was doing, but they kind of were just like, "No, you're here now." So that's where I am.
So basically, you know what yantra is behind you? I see some yantra behind you. Can you like explain? Because
Okay. So this is an Ionist yantra. Don't quote me on the names. I do not speak the language. And I don't know this particular one's name, but I got it because while I was right before college, I was dealing with the thing that you were helping me solve. And I found that having lighter energy around me dissipated the effects of what I was going through with the parasite. And this is something, it is a yantra, it is designed scientifically to take negative energy and transmute it into positive energy. And so this is very close to my bed, so that while I was sleeping, I wouldn't get attacked as heavily. And it very much decreased we'll say, the virulency of the attacks that I was going through.
okay, so basically, can you tell us, because you also practice, like, I am interested in your ionist journey, because we never discussed it. You just told me you do that shit, like tantric shit, Hindu shit, but you never explained to me what the fuck you do, how you started doing it. Like, we never went into detail, because I
So
was simply interested in helping you with the problem you had. I wasn't like
yeah.
interested in your background.
The first time I heard about it, I was deep on some spiritual forms when I was 16 or 17. It was one of the times I was probably closest to death, and I discovered it and I looked into it. But at that point in time, I was doing more uh, creative witchcraft stuff, and not necessarily the scientifically based stuff. So I looked at it and I saw it, and I was like, "This is interesting," and it called to me. But I was also very, we'll say, humbled with the whole Christian ideology. Like put yourself down. Like, it wasn't a healthy humbling. It was don't express yourself. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm not worthy. That whole Christian bullshit. What's it called? Catholic guilt. And so I didn't pursue it at that time. And then a few years passed, and I was talking to another friend, and he mentions the name, and it just sticks with me. And I'm just like, okay, I need to look this up. And I looked it up, and I remembered seeing it when I was really close to death. And so I started getting more involved in it. Especially, it really started. I would say the bulk of the magic I've been doing started about 2 years ago during the solar flares. At least the powerful stuff I was doing. I've read every book under the sun. I've read everything from different alchemy stuff to like all sorts of stuff, yogic stuff. But I didn't have the Kundalini awakening, we'll say, until about two years ago. But my Ionist journey, it's not my main focus in life, but I use the yantras a lot, and it has been, whether I intended or not, one of the most helpful ways, or one of the most helpful tools for my advancement. I have advanced so much by working with these things, and this was really how I learned to we'll say jump into a yantra, which is sort of how I solved the problem that you and I were working on together for a while. Was I finally had to call on Narasimha, and after a long time of dealing with this parasite, and like end things, which is obviously not something I intend to do initially. Like I'm not out here just to kill spirits, but if it won't leave, if it's causing you horrible pain, etc., if you need to save your life, I'm okay. I think that's self-defense is fine. So I had to do that, and actually I was in such a chaotic state of mind at the time I did that. I finally learned to break through. That's how I learned to break through into other dimensions, and I had done it before, but it was we'll say another dimension added on to traveling through other dimensions. There's astral travel, and then there's astral travel to the point where like you can feel the energies saturating all of your physical body, and like really, really intense stuff. And that was sort of what happened when it was a life or death situation, really, because it really was. My school life, needed to be saved. So college degree and stuff like that.
Okay, so basically, I want to talk about my own Hindu stuff. So my Hindu stuff is basically something, when you don't necessarily want to work with something all the time, but it just follows you around. Like it's not necessarily something you choose to do. It's something which like follows you around. And to me, like it's definitely tantric stuff. I sometimes like don't work with those spirits for months, and then they just like show up in a dream, and they are like, here is this super complex procedure which you could do, and I am like, what the fuck? I didn't even call you.
That's so true.
and then like I am like, what? Is it even, because like, look, my problem with all of this, my biggest like beef with Ionism, like beef with Tantrism, as taught in the Ionist tradition, like my biggest beef with basically what Guru Daval is teaching. For you guys who don't know, like there is like an online organization called the Ion World Foundation, and they basically teach a bunch of legitimate tantric practices, yantras, mantras, rituals, etc. So my biggest beef with the Ion World Foundation is the fact that what they teach looks nothing like what we are taught Hinduism is in the West. And so I really had like a hard time like connecting to that at first, not necessarily magically. Like magically and spiritually, it all made sense. But basically, I went on a wild goose chase where I was like, okay, I summoned Kali, and she told me to venerate her in this manner. Is it how you do, guys, in India? And I would contact Hindu people, like on Facebook, people from India, and they are like, yes, that's actually how we do it. And then I'm like, that's not what we are told Hindus do. Interesting.
Right.
And then I had like a lot of those moments with Indian people, and then I had like Indian people coming to me and then telling me how everyone has like a house deity, like a family deity,
Yeah.
and every family is like venerating deity differently, and every family has like family mantras and family rituals. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not how we are taught Hinduism works. And then they were like, when I was a little kid, my mother did mantra so and so from her grandma, and it did so and so happened. And I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, no, I hear that. For me, it wasn't
and
too much of a
basically,
oh
and
no, continue,
basically,
sorry.
like I basically came to the conclusion that we are basically sold like a false Hinduism in the West, like what we are taught Hinduism is, and what those big gurus who sold shit to Westerners say have nothing to do with what Hindus do in India. And like once I realized that, I was like, okay, I will practice this Zionist stuff whenever I like it because there is no problem with it. Because what I hate more than anything is like pretending to be something I am not. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did the tantric Zionist rituals, but I didn't want to say I do Hindu rituals because I didn't knew it's Hindu. I thought somebody made it up or something. And basically, my first experience with the Iron Roll Foundation shit was with Pishacha Mayalakan, and I still call him from time to time. But he was like the first spirit who really resonated with me. And yeah, like who was your first spirit from like Ionist, but from the Hindu pantheon? Who was like your first entity?
Asha Saptrishi, we'll say. She has been very, very concrete in a lot of my practice. So she's the one that branches into the Deva realm, the first
Into the realm of the gods, yeah.
into the realm of the gods. And so, even though most of my practice has been working with a lot of darker things, she has been very active in most of the stuff that I've done. And she was the first one I really tried to connect with. Because like when I like I've said, when I first started doing this, I was coming from a love and light background. And so she has been with me often and has given me a lot of very good advice and a lot of like comfort when I've needed it. Because I mean, it is like what I went through. I went like really in the last 2 years, I've done a total 180 in terms of how I practice. I was love and light up until about 2 years ago, until things just like totally 180'd. And she's been very helpful in sort of me adjusting to things and keeping my sanity while all these things are going on. So she's been with me a lot, and definitely Lavali and Gatizaman has been very helpful as well. And actually, you mentioned Pushasha Muyalakan and Ravana and Shiva. We were vibing on this a while ago. I actually came because I think, well, they described it to me a little bit differently, but they taught you a ritual, the same ritual that they had taught me. And I brought it up to you, and they're like, "Oh, you said, yeah." They pretty much taught me the same thing on ways to merge with Shiva more deeply through Ravana and through the tantric
Yeah,
path.
but basically, like you know, this is what you kind of come into. Like when you work, like both sides of the spectrum, dark side and the light side, basically lead you to the same point. So if you work with the dark side, you'll feel those intense emotions, and then those intense emotions break your mind. And once your mind is broken, you have like a state of emptiness, like a complete emptiness, absolute detachment, and then the bliss comes, the blissful feeling.
Hmm.
While if you go the right-handed path, you basically do it. You basically do it like how to say. You basically do it uh, first by experiencing all of those positive emotions, and then those positive emotions break your mind, and then you feel emptiness, and then the bliss comes. So basically, it's the same thing from different polarities. You basically go through the same process, it's just like from a different angle. But to me, what is the most disturbing is that you know, there is like a specific ritual where I was doing that a lot. So basically, you write out Karapanayal yantra, and then you like, now this is done, you can do it on your own, right?
Mhm.
But you can also do it with the guidance of like some stronger, bigger deity. So basically, you call Parapanayal spirits, and then you say, I want to like merge with all negative entities around me. And then you basically start merging with your parasites, like all of the parasites around you. And once you do that, they basically stop draining you and they start being familiars. They start being a useful spiritual allies. And this is
Mhm.
like one of the first things, serious things they told me to do is like, you learn how to work with your own parasites. And then they tell you what negative action you commit feeds them so you can know how to not overfeed them and how to not be devoured by them. So that's like a really important part. But the reason why I never advised it to you that much is because once those spirits go beyond certain point, it's difficult to merge with them. You know, you can do that if you have like a strong experience with the dark energy and if you are like a little bit in control of the process. Like I was
Mhm.
never completely out of my mind, bonkers. And the thing with that is like if the merging fails, you are kind of in trouble because you gave them more access. So I never tried it with you.
Mhm.
But I kind of like when you work with dark entities, what happens a lot, and that's something majority of the people don't talk about, is before you go into that emptiness, which precedes bliss, right? What you usually feel if you work with a lot of negative entities is you feel really, really suicidal. Like you want to off
Yeah.
yourself
Mhm.
hardcore 24/7. And it's
Existential
like,
nihilism. It's
no, it's not nihilism. It's like everything is gray and you just want to die. You want to kill
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
But your body is too depressed to even lift hand and kill itself. Like
Mhm.
it's a complete ground zero. And so basically that's what a lot of people who try left hand path hardcore jump into and they just kill themselves. And this is why you have so many left hand pathers who go into fucking drugs, alcohol, or suicide because that feeling of negative overload is so heavy that it basically kills a lot of people. But and like a lot of the time when you work with negative energy, like everything will stop. Like everything will like stop working on purpose. All of the rituals, all of the magic, all of the mantras, chants, like everything stops working for some reason. And then after you push through that period when everything stops working, you actually have a breakthrough. You actually discover something which builds up your practice even more. But like, can you tell me what was your most intense negative experience with negative entities outside of the parasite who tortured you?
when Lilith first came in and really, I used to say that she cracked me open like a walnut. And she really did. First step was vampirism, and she just vampirized the living shit out of me. I was sitting in my really the story was I was sitting in my room and I was doing a meditation on a yantra of Devi, of Bhairavi Devi, and all of a sudden, I hear Lilith's name whispered physically in my ear, and this was the first time I'd ever experienced something to that degree. But I heard it, and I just fell into this trance, and her name had this chime to it, and I went over to the to Google, and I googled her sigil, and I started meditating on it the same way I had been meditating on the Devi yantra. And then over a period of about 3 weeks, I started getting heavily drained. I could barely function. I couldn't even get out of bed. I was like bed bound. I started seeing spirits. And she started to really manifest in my life and started just draining me. At this time, she pretty much said, "Yeah," told me I have to break up with the girlfriend I was with at the time, and I did. And the longer I get on the path, the more I kind of see. I believe there may have, there are reasons for that. And the farther along I get in life, but at the time I was very frustrated with it, and and then she pretty much came to me in a vision. I saw her physically, like in a vision, like overlapping my room, and she came on a vision and on a floating throne, and she said, "Your summer finances will be taken care of. You're going to go meet another practitioner, um, and you're going to travel to meet another practitioner." And I didn't have any money for travel or anything like that. But everything that she said came true, and then we'll kind of led into the parasite situation, which I believe that she put me through. I don't know if she in particular put me through, but I do believe that the gods put me through this whole parasite situation for a reason. I think that they're trying to temper me for things that are coming in the future, and I can't tell you all that they are, but I have ideas here and there that pop into my head that I won't go into now, at least at this point in time. But I have ideas and thoughts on that. But I do
Okay.
believe, because nothing will make you grow faster than thinking your life is in danger. Nothing will make you hunt for knowledge faster than having some paranormal thing trying to kick your ass constantly. And the biggest reason I keep saying that I think that it was instigated was because the level of ass kickery was at a constant level. It wouldn't go beyond and kill me. It was a true parasite in the way that it kept me alive. And whether it was painful or not, I grew I spiritually grew so much while I was being harassed by this thing, because I really had no choice but to grow.
Okay, so can you tell me how you got rid of that shit? Like VK helped you to call some demonic duke, and what happened there?
Yeah, actually, he made a post about me on his blog. I was like, oh, look, that was me. But yeah, so I was at my wit's end. It was getting really, really bad. I contacted you. You had confirmed that it was a parasite and not, it was a parasite. And then I had called him, and I messaged him. I was like, this is my situation. Is there anything you can do to help me? And he pointed me in the direction of a spirit. I want to say its name is Jen Zemra. Jen. It's the latest post on his blog. We'll say that. Regardless, this spirit, I talked to the spirit, and the spirit said, kind of eyed me up, and he was like, I don't know you very well, but like on behalf of VK, I'll do the thing. And then I felt it physically. Like the parasite felt like a blob on the side of my head, and I felt this the spirit that VK told me to contact, grab it and rip it, and it felt like ripping up a tree root that was like buried really deep, because it had been in me for like 2 years. So it ripped it up, and then I could feel it like ripping out, like the roots connect to the earth, right? And the earth nourishes it. Well, if I was its host, if I was its earth, its source of nourishment, it was ripping out the roots that were connected not to dirt, but to all of the memories that it had played a part in the creation of, all of the situations that it had played a part in the creation of. And it was wild, and it took like 2 days for it to fully unravel everything, but it was like coiled around my entire body. Like it was a wild experience. But even then, I didn't fully get rid of it, and it came back like a puzzle piece. I think it was ripped away, but it came back like a puzzle piece. And then at that point in time, I said I have to call Narasimha, and so I did through the same method, the Ionist exorcism method, and I reached for Narasimha so forcefully that I saw him. I see most of my spirits now physically manifest as sort of a ghostly apparition. I've never touched one, but I feel them there's a texture. And the Narasimha appears, and I ask him to get rid of this, just to kill it at this point, just kill it. And I feel that I see this little blip, like he just fires like a little blip at this thing, And then it was like the scene from Indiana Jones when like they look at the Ark of the Covenant. I see this thing just turn white hot and then just start to burn away into nothing, and I hear it screaming, and then it just vanishes, and then I feel like I have like a hole in the side of my face where I guess it had fucked with my astral body for like 2 days, and then it started to fill in, and then I started to heal, and here I am about 3 weeks later, um realizing how much of a crazy trajectory this thing has taken me on in life and piecing my life back together. So that was that journey.
Okay. So basically, can you? I don't know. In that entire situation, I was more like a counselor. Like I was trying to like keep you on the right track for the entire time. I didn't
Hmm.
necessarily do a lot of rituals. I was just like inspecting and telling you, like I was like channeling it all the time, and I was checking
Yeah,
every single time. And I was like, Lilith is not trying to kill you. I think this is not Lilith. And I was like that for a really long time. And you were like,
I
it is
kept
Lilith.
saying
It is
I'm
Lilith.
doing everything out of love for Lilith. Why is she trying to kill me? And you pointed that out. You said, no, this is not Lilith, this is a parasite. And it was succubus that had, I guess, tricked me. And at that point, and I guess it attached to me at such an early stage in my development that it was fucking with my ability to differentiate between, Lilith and itself. And it also attached to itself to me early enough that I wasn't able to get an idea of what Lilith was to be able to differentiate. So at this point in time, I'm much better at that. Even just a few weeks later, after it left, my level of my skills increased a lot. Like it was like a cork blocking my development. But the yeah, but it was definitely it was not Lilith. In fact, I asked Lilith to get rid of it, and she had mentioned it was not completely hers. It was not under her control. Another practitioner had it belonged partly to another practitioner, which is why she couldn't necessarily, I guess, legally interfere.
Yeah, but that spirit is like those kinds of spirits are like kind of related to Lilith and semi under her authority. Like I dealt with them too, but like a lot of people, they don't go into this succubi rabbit hole, and so to them it's kind of polarizing subject. They either see them as like evil demons or like Lilith is your mom and here is your guide, and that's like not necessarily true. Both of those sides are ridiculous, but like.
I love the succubi, and I have had very early on in my practice, Lilith, um, pretty much gave me one to work with. At least I believe that this is the case. Although everything up to this point, take with a grain of salt, because I'm really, I have been, not everything that I'm going to say about Lilith is going to be Lilith. Just at least that I've experienced in the past. I know there's many other things have and many things haven't, and I want to clarify that so that there's no confusion. But I have worked with succubi here and there, and they've been very, very helpful for my development. Everything that you said about them in your video, I've watched your videos on everything you know about succubi. I haven't seen the four that you've mentioned, the four different kinds, but there was one that I had a relationship with for a number of months, and was very helpful and very healing, actually. And a very, very good friend to talk to in times when I was going through a lot of pain. And there was a genuine love there. Like it wasn't like a scary monster. I don't think they're scary monsters. I honestly I view myself in a way as one, because, well, I to my knowledge, as a daughter of Lilith will say, I do view myself as as sort of akin to them in a way. And so why would I hate a family member or something of the same clan? I don't think, that's just not right in my mind, unless they really, really mess up,
So, what's like your experience with Lilith and tantric spirits? How they kind of compare, like dark tantric spirits and Lilith? Is there a parallel, between dark tantric entities, like and Lilith? How they kind of relate in your experience?
I was going to go into working with Rakshasi Lankini, and that was at the time very forbidden from me working with. I was very much, I was told, do not work with her at that time, because you know, Lilith was training me with certain things. I think that I do see Lilith's plague aspect when I contact, you know, her to a degree, but I feel like it's something that she's very capable of hiding, and something that she doesn't necessarily bring out to everybody. With And I've noticed that with the succubi as well, that they might be strong, they might be, you know, fiery, or they might be in whatever way they decide to appear. The sort of sickness part of them doesn't really manifest itself the same way that it does with when you work with the spirits of Rakshasi Lankini's realm. And that could also be because I'm not as accustomed to the spirits of Rakshasi Lankini's realm, and so I feel the effects more. And I want to just say that because that could be the issue. But from my personal experience, I think, you know, succubi are much more. I mean, I don't think man-eater is the wrong phrase. I do believe that is very, very valid way to describe them, but I can't compare them to tantric spirits, just because when I work with tantric spirits, I don't see them the same way that I see spirits that I work with in sort of the Clifothic realms. I see them very differently, and a lot of times it's not visual. When I work with Lilith and Lilith spirits, I see them visually very easily. The tantric spirits, unless it's a god of the tantric spirits, like I have seen Vinayaka Dantin, I've seen you know, many times. I've seen Pushacha Muyalakan many times. I have not seen sort of Kalanemi or the other Rakshasi Lankini, but I view them differently. They feel different. They work with me differently. They interact with me differently. It's like they're two different. I mean, they're two different nations, I guess. You know, they're spirits that originate from, or you know, they're embedded in two very different cultures, and so they're just different to interact with. It's hard for me to describe it with the English language, but that's just how I am. I don't see them. I feel them more. The tantric spirits, and
Okay, but what you kind of recognize as a fundamental difference between Lilith and the tantric spirits from the Hindu tradition, like what is the
absolutely.
difference?
It's like, I guess, like two nations, really. They're not at odds with each other. They are, you know, the same dark nature, but they are two very different. It's like two allied countries, you know, that have very different ways of operating, I guess. Sort of, their energy isn't very different, but it's different enough, and that's the best way I can describe it. I feel like most people would have to really work with it to understand.
Okay, so how Rakshasi Lankini, the demon from the tantric tradition, feels to
you? Sex. Honestly, she is. The first time I evoked her, I felt her physically wrap around my body and sort of very, very seductively, sort of playful, seductive in a way, and just sort of, I could feel like her hands, like she was crawling around my body on the outside of it, and she was just like being coy, I guess. You know, she was just like just fucking with my head, and like that sort of nature of things, and just, I guess, trying to get a rise out of me. So you know, she's good at that. That's sort of, feel like, what she does. And that's really, like I said, I haven't really worked with her because at the time it was sort of forbidden for me to really branch into that. I've worked with her here and there, but I don't have enough to really comment and to really give details on it, because I sort of, with that, I sort of do, like you said, they'll come up to you and they'll have different ideas. When they come to me and they're like, do this, I'll look into it. But unless it happens, I usually don't make it a conscious part of my practice to really work. I mean, I do, but my main focus is the cliff off. My main focus is the cliff off by far.
Okay, so like, you know, I don't know, like, to me, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I think, if you want to work with tantric spirits, you really need to like be hardcore motherfucker. Like, I noticed that they will ask much more than the Qliphothic spirits. Probably because they come from a culture where much more is done for spirituality. Because Qliphothic spirits are worked with today in a form which is kind of modern Western form. Like, how we work with the Qliphot is not the same way how Jews work with it. If you came to some traditional rabbi to work with the Qliphot, it would be like a completely different thing than what we do now. Like, it's the same energy, but it's a different approach, and so the results are really different and methodology is different. It's like taking the same water and using it in a completely different way. Somebody
Yeah.
drinks water, somebody makes juice with water, somebody makes Coca-Cola with water. It all contains the same water, but there is a lot of variation between how that water is utilized because all shit contains water. So basically, to me, Lankini is sexual, but there is also like a royal energy around her, like
Oh, absolutely.
royalty, a really arrogant, prideful, petty
Yes.
royalty. If I
Yeah.
can, uh,
You can definitely tell she eats people. You can. I feel like that's also something that I've noticed is you can definitely feel the Rakshasa energy. Um, not that not that you can't with other spirits, but I just when I work with her, I feel a hunger.
yeah, but like Lankini is like weird. So Rakshasi Lankini is like, I don't know, if I had to make like a parallel, she's in many ways a Hindu version of Nama. She's like Nama, like she helps
I
with
can see
mind.
that. I can see that. Nama is one of the four that I've worked with. She was the first one actually that I really evoked. And the first one that came to me in a like I'm about to wreck your life form. Like it's because I think when you're first starting, a lot of them will sort of take it easy on you. At least that was my experience. And they didn't necessarily show their badass form. Nama definitely, when I first evoked her, came and I was looking in a black mirror and I saw her face physically come out of the mirror, and I just felt this like the whole room, just the pressure. It was like I was being crushed into a diamond, and she just like I felt like this, I guess her like the whole rage aspect of underneath, the whole what demonolatry really at its root is that demons are beings of rage. And
Yeah,
from my
keep
experience, there's
talking.
there's not there's not one that's purely light. I mean, yes, they love, absolutely. Like they're not. I don't want to. Like, they're not evil, but and then she proceeded to show me a vision of things. But I can absolutely see that correlation. I can absolutely see that correlation. I haven't really worked with her since the very beginning, Nama. But now that you point that out,
Yeah,
they're absolutely,
and like what
absolutely.
I noticed about Rakshasi Lankini, that Hindu demoness, is like she's really, really, really like she inspires greed in a fundamental sense. Like
Yes.
the most primal, catastrophic greed you
It's
can
so
imagine.
true.
And, and she's like, here is like, I am going to like infest you with this greed, and here is the money.
That is so fucking true. Like it's
and
the
like
hunger. For me, it manifests as like this like hunger. Like I want to eat every opportunity, everything, all like everything. I want it to be mine. That when I work with her, and that's how she manifests to me. This is the best way I can put it is as like a gnawing hunger, like but like a hunger like a drive, like yeah.
yeah, and like what usually happens with her also, is she like just casually gives you the most dope ass technique for spiritual evolution, but she gives it together with like, here is the money stuff. To her it's all
Okay, I
like
think
mixed, it's all the same thing.
maybe we're talking now because I'm meant to really put in some hardcore effort into working with her. I've been thinking about actually working with Nama to get sort of money issues together. Although actually I just evoked Belial the other day and started with that. But I've been sort of Peter pattering on where I want to end up with the money goddess. But with all this talk, I think maybe this is where the universe is pointing me. We'll figure that out as I go along with the journey. But that is very true. Is the inspiration of just greed.
Yeah, yeah. And like, people say that Mammon is like inspiring greed, but nothing comes close to Lankini. Like, there is something about Lankini's greed which is like ridiculous. Like, that entity inspires you to eat everything in a metaphysical sense. Like,
Yeah.
you eat the entire universe and you become the universe by devouring it.
Hmm.
And she talks a lot about connecting to the lower energies, like lower energy centers of the body, and then rising energy into your body to make body stronger, and then that stronger body wields more powerful spiritual experience. So how working with the negative energy influenced your body? That's what I want to know.
Well, when I first got into it, it was I entered a fugue state and I did shit that I look back now and just keep thinking I would have never done before. When Lilith came in and initiated me into really Lilith Nihimit, I got really big into just sort of like the chaotic party life in a way. And all aspects of it and all facets of it and the stuff that's probably not so stuff that's absolutely antagonistic to social norms, and I love that shit. Honestly, I kind of eat that shit up, but at the time it was much more difficult for me to digest the energy that was in those places, growing up in a very sheltered sort of Christian love and light household. The other day I took a friend to an event that I was really pushed into 2 years ago by Lilith. And at the time when I was pushed into it, I was a little nervous. I would have overcome a lot. And my friend is in my shoes as I was a few years ago. And I was sitting there having a grand old time. And he had to leave because he felt really nauseous and sick because the energy in that place was just thick with, what it was about. And not going to go into that. But he had to leave, and I was sitting there enjoying it like it was a grand old time. So my ability to absorb negative energy and just kind of eat it for breakfast is has gone through the roof. Situations really don't phase me too much, like not nearly as much as they used to. Uh, I'm just I'm just an overall stronger person, and things that would seriously affect other people, like energetic things, just don't. Like I can act totally chill and other people can lose their minds because the energy is just a little off and I can just be sitting there eating my breakfast or whatever. So I think honestly, that's a reason I think everybody should practice is just to get themselves stronger, is to get themselves healthier and able to tolerate harsher things. Because the whether we want to or not, the world is heading into a really harsh fucking stage. And I think that there are going to be people that can tolerate it and people that are not going to be able to advance. What?
Yeah, but like, what is the most ridiculous situation you just chilled
I
away?
just still. I have a part time. I work part time for like music promotion, And like, I don't know, I chill on the couch now. Like I absolutely vibe. Like I will go up and I will headbang my head off. Like I love my music, but it's a choice, and I'm in control of the energy around me. And that's sort of the later end of the spectrum on the sort of culture she's put me in. I would say, well, yeah, no, there's the king culture, and that's one that's very very tied in with Lilith energy, um, and Agrat energy, and the that whole world, I would say, of antagonistic things just doesn't affect me in negative ways anymore. And I think that that's the whole point of getting into this, is to be one of the main points of getting into this while you're at least here on this planet, is to strengthen yourself against situations that would threaten your survival by just becoming immune to them. They just don't affect me as much anymore. Like I can go into some crazy ass places and be like, hey, you want to bite on my bagel? Like it's just, it's desensitization, but not numbness. I can still live my life. I remember, like, my sister used to work at the hospital, and she said the first time she started working there, there'd be like, and this might be like TMI or whatever, but like vomit on the places, and she'd be like really grossed out. And then later on, a few months in, she'd be snacking on a cracker, and somebody would, vomit, and she'd be joking. She'd be like, "Hey, you want a cracker?" Like, like, because that was how her mindset changed. And I think that that's really how this path works. Is you open up yourself to new experiences by strengthening yourself, by becoming accustomed to energies that are harsh, and doors open because of that other people can't reach.
Yes, but like, do you have like, so what is like your, you know, to me, what really made me never leave tantric path, like Hindu tantric path and other dark traditions, is like the experience I had with like, I need to like pinpoint, but there is experience I had with Kali in which I saw the entire fucking universe. I don't know how to describe. Like,
I know what you mean. I had
you
that with Lilith.
basically see, you basically see like the entire universe,
Yeah.
and you see all of the light and all of the darkness and how it's all connected and how it's all one.
Mhm.
And then like she gave me a choice to reach that union through light or through darkness. And I said I am doing it through darkness. However, now I am kind of working with celestial jinn who are kinda light, but I am saying
Interesting.
kinda because jinn from Arabic lore are
Yeah.
never completely light. Like if you wanna go completely into light, you work with angels. But like
Okay.
those celestial jinn I am working with now, they are like, I don't know how to describe it. If you ever read like 1001 Nights stories, and then you had like a crazy genies who teach about stars and shit, and they just like crazily appear and disappear.
Kind of love that. Yeah.
This is kind of an entity I am talking about. And so they are like, you do like so there is like list of like 7 names, and you repeat each one 70 times, right? And you do it daily for like 2 or 3 weeks, which is like a significant effort. And then they give you a dream where they basically infuse you with a ball of light, and then you basically become able to work with them. And they are like different. Like one of them basically saved my life. So I have CP. We discussed it. I don't have to repeat myself.
Mhm.
And so because I have CP, I usually don't travel alone. And so what happens is like, for whatever reason, shit hit the fan and I have to travel alone. And then like I am on the bus and I am just reading a book. I am not summoning anything. I am not doing anything. I am not chanting anything. I am not meditating on anything. I am on a bus reading a book about the ritual I'm going to do. Right? And then I figure out there is no way I have the logistics to do this shit. It's too many tools, too many stuff, right? And then just spirit shows up, like a celestial genie shows up, and he introduces himself and he tells me who is his king, etc. And he's like, I'm going to help you. And then he basically brings people my way for the entire trip. And basically, I had like 5 people helping me that trip, and I
Oh, that's
managed
great.
to not starve and not die during a trip and not get stranded, which was really a possibility. I got myself really fucked. But like, this is a kind of a thing which you experience when you work with those. Like, and I don't know. Also, Kali has crazy protective powers, but what I came to understand is there is nothing you can really do to force the spirits to do what you want. Like,
Mm.
even if you can do it, it's for a short period of time. Like,
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
it's not something you can do all the time. And like, nothing will match spirit who actually wants to help you. Like, if spirits want to help you, they will. If they don't want to help you, you can give them offerings, you can ask them for shit, and they will do something, but it's never anything compared to what they will do when they actually want to do it. If they want
Mm.
to do it, you need to give them no offerings. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if if you want to do it, it's like, if they want to do it, they will like just do it. But if they don't want to do it, they can do it, but it will never be as powerful as they when they want to do it. So, what
Mm.
is like your most powerful spiritual manifestation from like tantric spirits and Lilith?
Hmm. Definitely the initial thing that Lilith did was she came into my life, and the first thing she said was she looked me up and down on the floating throne, and she said, "You've been beaten into subservience." And then she took a little while to think, and then she said, "I will help you." And then everything happened. And the next day, I was told I was going to travel somewhere. A friend came to me, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. A friend of mine came to me, and she was like, "Let's go travel to the exact place that I was told I was going to travel to." I was like, "Okay, how are we going to pay for that?" She's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. My ex works for Delta Airlines. He can hook you up with a free ticket." Okay. And all that. And so I go out and I do all that stuff. And then, yeah, my summer finances were taken care of. Money pulled in from places I didn't think I'd ever have money from. Um, and things just worked out really well. Other than that, uh, I usually my experience has been one where they kind of drag me around places. They sometimes they will do stuff for me, but for the most part, they'll just kind of drag me around places. I have had them get pissed on my behalf, and without me really intending it, send negative energy toward people that have, I'm maybe against at the time without me really asking. But other than that, really most of it has been my own effort. And they'll come and give me rituals sometimes too. They'll be like, you need to do this. Like Satan actually came and he gave me a ritual. And I at the time was still going through a lot of difficulty with everything I was experiencing. And so I didn't really work with him too much, but it was one of the most powerful rituals I have ever had in my life. And it's a shadow empowerment, and it is something that I do for close friends, for students, but it pretty much it uh, sort of rips the shadow out of somebody. You can summon the shadow from wherever, and then charges it with abyssal energy in a way where they learn to digest the abyss energy rather than just kind of get eaten by it. And it's fucking awesome. Like people, I've had like when I did it, I felt amazing for like a month and a half. I'm about to do it for somebody else in a few days. Belial came to me and he gave me a ritual where pretty much I can summon him to remove obstacles to help people remember who they are. He was doing that for me so that I would remember who I was. Because when I went through this spiritual awakening, like I said, it fucked with my brain so much that I ended up in a fugue state. and they were doing what they could to try and help me figure out my way back to sanity. And they do, you know, they have done a lot for me. They've done a lot for me. I do love my spirits. You know, yeah, I don't think that was ever a question. But most of the stuff they do, they don't just kind of do. They kind of ask, or they give me a ritual, and they'll just kind of pop in and be like, "Here's a ritual." I'll be like, "Okay," and then they'll kind of do it. And then, you know, that's how they sort of work through me. Is they oftentimes they won't just do things for me; they'll kind of give me a ritual. Or if they do stuff for me, I don't really realize it, because I have noticed, like, they do stuff for me. I know Lilith has put glamours on me at times when I'm feeling self-conscious and whatnot, and going through sort of mental difficulties, you know, and then people will come up and I'll get way more compliments, and it'll just kind of help me out and boost my ego, you know, but help me get through moments where I might not be feeling my best. And Lilith has done that for me, so on several occasions. I don't notice them all the time, but now that you mention it, yeah, they do things like that.
Okay. So do you have like a closing message for our audience, like something you want to say and something you want to tell them?
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. This has been great. I'm a little rusty. I haven't been on like a live podcast in a long time. I've been on a few comedy things, believe it or not. Yeah, back in the day. But this has been fun, and maybe we'll do this again sometime. If you want to reach me or have a ritual or service done by me, I'm over at the Sky Lilith on Facebook. That's Sky Blue Psychic Services. And yeah, keep on doing Dimitri, because Dimitri is fucking awesome, and deserves a shout out. So
Yeah, thank you, bro. So yeah, I would like to stop recording now. This is the end of the interview, but thank you for being there, and you were awesome. And also, guys, if you want more content like this, please like, share, and subscribe to like boost the gods of the algorithm to push this video. So talk to you soon.